Welcome to the Legit Mindset Podcast, Failures, Lessons, and Breakthroughs. I'm Curtis McCullom, your host, certified clinical hypnotherapist, and founder of Bespoke Human Potential Coaching. Here we dive into the real stories of challenge and comeback, where leaders share the setbacks that shaped them and the growth that followed. Because real success isn't about failure, it's about transforming through it. And this is the legit mindset way of learning, growing, expanding, and transforming. Today in studio, I'm joined with Jason Duncan. Jason, in his bio, he said he's the real Jason Duncan. So I guess there's a fake Jason Duncan out there somewhere. I'm not sure about that, but he's the American exit coach. He's the founder of Exeter Club. He's a two-time TEDx speaker, a best-selling author, a top-rated podcast host, and you'll see it when you hear his voice. He built a system for entrepreneurs generating over $3 million in revenues for them to own their own businesses as assets and not enslave them. But like everyone else, their journey is never a straight path. And that's where we come to the show. Their story didn't unfold without a challenge. I appreciate the fact that we're going to have this conversation, that it's not about talking all about the highlights. It's about, here we're going to talk about the moments that shaped them, the awareness that followed, and the real growth that took place on the other side. Jason, welcome to the show, man.
Glad to be here, Curtis.
Wow. Jason, we met a few days ago. I'm saying a few days ago. I'm from Mississippi. So, a few days for me could be a month. It could be a year. We always, we have no sense of time. We just say, hey, a few days. Oh, yesterday could have been last year sometime. But so, and I appreciate your story. So just kind of give the audience a little highlight of who you are or the season you're in your life or in your work right now, man.
So, as you said in the intro, I am America's exit coach. I work exclusively with entrepreneurs here in the United States that are doing $3 million or more in annual revenue, that are tired of their businesses stealing time from them, or they're just ready to exit altogether. They want to do that. I wrote a book called Exit Without Exiting that kind of chronicled the story of 3 different entrepreneurs, plus my own story about what it's like to exit a business. And this idea of exit without exiting became a reality because I went through that. I had a business that made, we had $1 million in profit one year, and then the very next year, $1 million in loss. And the reason was because the business was dependent upon me. And so I learned really quickly through that process, can't do that. This is not a sustainable way to build a business. And so right now I work with entrepreneurs all over the country, and I have 5 other coaches in my program who help them as well to get unstuck from daily operations.
Wow, that's exciting. So now let's get to the nitty gritty here, because as I said before, no one's journey is a straight path. My journey was not a straight path. No one I've ever met has a straight path as far as the journey is concerned. So at what point or where in your life where you actually came up with a challenge or a situation that really shifted everything?
The first time this happened was in 2019. And I have to preface this entire story by saying I lived and still have really, a very charmed life. I've never gone through any experience of losing someone in my life that I shouldn't have lost. The old people older than, who were older died as they were supposed to, but there was no untimely deaths. There were no tragic things. There wasn't a family blow up or anything like that. And I lived in a pretty solidly middle-class home. Dad had a, nice job, and mom stayed at home with me and my brother. And so life was great. I had a good, charmed life. Met my wife on a blind date when we were in high school. We dated for 4 years, got married. We've been married nearly 31 years. I mean, life has been good. Well, in 2018, I sat down at the end of the year with my business coach, and we had hit $1 million in EBITDA. We had hit that kind of golden moment of, man, this small business hitting $1 million of profit's a pretty big deal. So let's sell the company. I don't really enjoy running the company. I'd rather go do something else. Let's sell it. And my business coach said, you can't, man. Like the business is way too dependent upon you. Nobody's going to want to buy it. The same reason you'd want to sell it is the same reason nobody's going to want to buy it. And I thought, well, okay, I don't know what that means or how we're going to do it, but it gave me something to contemplate and ponder. Well, in 2019, this is getting to the crux of your question. I
Yeah.
had a very messy partner divorce. So my business partner at the time and I went through divorce together. We separated, and as a result, there was a lot of there weren't any explicit lawsuits, but we were heading that direction. So the whole year of 2019 was me trying to hold that at bay and try to protect the company, protect my financial well-being, et cetera. And at the end of 2019, we lost $1 million. So up $1 million, down $1 million. That's a $2 million swing for those keeping score at home. And my business coach, he didn't say this, but I could kind of sense him going, "See, I told you." The reason we lost money is because that 2019, I wasn't paying attention. I was no longer the center of the business. I was over here dealing with this other crap I had to deal with, and as a result, the company floundered. It didn't run at to optimum speed and the capacity, and we lost a bunch of money. That, Curtis, is when I made a decision. You know what? There's got to be a better way to build and run businesses that don't require the owner. And so for the next 18 months, I tried to figure out, how do I extricate myself? How do I exit without exiting? And that's how
Right.
I ended up writing the book about that process.
But on a personal level, I mean, so what did you have to accept on a personal level? I mean, what was it that you have to accept that, okay, yeah, the business partner, messy divorce, it was a mess and all of this stuff. But what did you personally, how did it personally affect you? Bespoke Human Potential Coaching sponsors this show. Bespoke helps CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs get rid of those blind spots that they've been carrying around since childhood. So if you're stuck and have some blocks, click the link below for your clarity call or scan the QR code if you're on video. Let's get rid of those blinds. Now back to the interview.
Well, on top of what we went through in business in 2019, there were two other big issues that happened that were not related to business. We had a family issue that happened that has since been resolved, but there was a family issue that happened that affected us in probably higher, more emotional turmoil over that than anything that was going on simultaneously. And then one of a former now, but a best friend at the time, we were going to do a real estate deal together. And he screwed me on the real estate deal out of a pretty good 6-figure day, and did and looked at me and said, "Well, God told me to do this." And I'm like, I don't believe that. I think you need to go back and reread the message. So I had a best friendship that had been around for a long time,
Right.
totally destroyed, had a family issue going on. And then in the meantime, have all this business going on. So the question is,
Business.
how did that affect me? I mean, it was the worst year of my life at that point. I mean, I'd never experienced loss. I'd never experienced an enemy. Like, I mean, I had people that didn't like me, but I'd never had enemies before. And now I have two. One who hated me because of something I did, and one I hated because of something they did. Like, I was on both sides of it. And then I had this family thing that was tearing my wife and me apart. Not well, I wouldn't, not tearing us apart, but like tearing us from the inside out,
Right.
just
But
like
right,
the
right,
emotional
right.
turmoil going on. So all of that happening, I had to, decide, I'm not going to let
There
this
you
kill
go.
me. I'm not going to let this define who I am, and I'll be stronger on the back end of it. Now, um, COVID happened in 2020. So right when we thought, okay, we got all this behind us and we're going to come
Right.
out of this thing. And my company never really recovered as a result of that. All the other stuff kind of worked itself out. I ultimately ended up forgiving my former best friend. We have no relationship anymore, but I ultimately forgave him for that issue. The family thing kind of, we worked through that and got that taken care of. I did have a forgiveness moment with my ex-business partner. We still don't have anything to do with each other, but like, I feel like I've done what I needed to do to put those things behind me, but it made me a better person. It made me make better decisions, but it started with the decision that I'm not going to let this define me.
And I think that's so important for people to understand is that most change starts with the decision.
Yeah.
I think in the book of Think and Grow Rich, he talks about that. You have to decide. You have to do something, and sometimes as business owners, they get stuck in
Yeah.
indecision. And indecision is almost like a death sentence, no longer you kind of be out there on your own. So now you've got this learning situation where you're growing through it, and which is so important too. I mean, what you went through is almost textbook to what we're talking about here. You went through a learning. The learning is that sometimes life is difficult. Could be a family member, it could be a job, it could be a partner, it could be a lot of different things that's happening at the same time. Then could be a world issue like we talked about in with COVID. So now what action steps? I know you said you decided any other action steps that you took to really start moving forward.
Yeah, so with the business, because I could talk about that pretty freely without having to give away any any family
Yeah.
secrets or private moments. But for the business, the decision I made was okay. I can't let this define me. Yeah, we had a bad year. Entrepreneurs lose things, and I'll tell you one of the conversations I had with a mentor, with one of my mentors before the bad stuff started happening. He
Okay.
looked at me and said, he said, "Look, you're not a real entrepreneur until you've filed bankruptcy, until you've lost everything. You're not a real." And I kind of laughed. I thought he was joking. And then of course, he didn't know
Right.
this was coming. He didn't predict it. And then when I went through that, and then I had another big problem that happened in 2023, he looked at me and said, "Now you're an entrepreneur. Now you have the authority to stand up and talk about things because you have gone through it." So the decision I made was, I'm
Mhm.
not going to let this define me. It will make me
Right.
a better person. And I had to start looking at specific ways as a business owner. How do I extricate myself from the daily operations without losing control of the business? And to a large degree, I was successful at that. That's why I ended up writing a book about it. Now, did I do it perfectly? Absolutely not. There were certain things I missed. There were certain gaps in the way that it was executed, but I still did it nonetheless. And it led me to the life that I now live. I'm now a business coach and a podcaster and an author and a speaker because of those experiences. And I'm now living in the center of what I believe to be my joy, my passion, and my purpose. And I'm living what I call a pinch me life. Every day it's like, oh, I'm living this life. I'm getting to do what I want, and I'm being paid well for it, and I get to transform people's lives. How could it get any better
and
than that?
Yeah, oh, I totally agree with you. It's interesting that now the transformation and the inspired action that you actually took, like, and that this is a good thing that people need to understand, and that all action doesn't mean it works. I mean, I think Tony Robbins call it sensory acuity, meaning like, and goals are never a straight path. Sometimes people set objectives and say this is the way it's going to go, and when it doesn't go that way, they fall apart. But that's not the way life works. Life is ups and downs, crazy turnarounds. It's never a straight path. And so you were able to still navigate that. You say it wasn't perfect, but you still got to the goal. You still got to the objective, right?
Yeah. Well, there's something called the law of barriers in life. And the law of barriers teaches us that it's the barriers that we kind of have to remove that make us stronger. And that's a truism for all of us. So think about if you're wanting to become stronger physically, what do you have to do?
Yeah.
The
You have to
barrier is
lift.
weight, is weight.
Yeah.
So you're pushing against the barrier, and the pushing against that barrier is what makes you stronger. If there were no barriers, we'd be weaklings. As an entrepreneur, that's why my business mentor told me, until you get ready to file bankruptcy, or maybe not actually, but you're on the verge of losing
Right,
everything,
right, right, right.
that is when you become a true entrepreneur. So if I'd lived a charmed life, well, I was weak. I was weak because I had not had any barriers. There nothing had been. I didn't have to push against anything, and it was these barriers that I had
Right.
to push against in 2019 and then again in 23 and 24. As I pushed through those barriers, it made me strong. So I could stand up in front of anybody and say, look, you might have more money than me, but I don't think we can argue about who's more successful, because what have you gone through? Like, what have you gone through? What
Right,
have I
right.
gone through? Like, let's talk about the scorecard. The barriers, and this is what people miss. The barriers is what makes you strong. So while we pray for and try to avoid all the barriers, as we should, because that's the normal and right thing to do, when they hit and you come up against a barrier, don't look at it as something negative. Look at it, this is an opportunity for me to get stronger.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what the legit mindset was all about. Is the fact that whatever we're going through, there's an opportunity for us to learn something.
Yeah.
And from the learning, we can grow. From the growth, we can expand. And from this expansion, we can transform. But guess what? I mean, just like right now, that's never ending process. We're always learning. We're always growing. We always whenever you stop learning, that means you're not going through anything, and I mean you can't grow. The growth comes through the learnings, through the challenges, and through the things that we go through. And I think it's so important that we do understand that it's interesting. Because I was born in a Christian environment. My dad was a fire and brimstone preacher, and it was interesting. People said, "Oh my God, I want to pray for strength." I used to laugh. I'm like, "Oh my God, if you asking for strength, the only way you can get strength is go through some shit, go through some stuff." You have to go through you have to
That's
go
right.
through something. You have to go through something to get strength. You don't get strength by sitting on the sidelines, and that's the interesting thing, even in society today, is that people don't want to go through it. They want to go around it. They don't want to go over it. They can't go over. You got to go through it in order to get all the learnings. You have to go through it, and that's so impressive. So what? So what was it that now you can put all this stuff together, Jason? You went through it. You learned some stuff. You grew from it, and now you can. Life is different. Life is better. So how can you? How does this integrate for the listeners? Bespoke Human Potential Coaching sponsors this show. Bespoke helps CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs get rid of those blind spots that they've been carrying around since childhood. So if you're stuck and have some blocks, click the link below for your clarity call or scan the QR code if you're on video. Let's get rid of those blind spots. Now back to the interview.
So, whatever it is that you're going through right now, it is not the end, because we know that
Yes.
everything will be all right in the end. Yeah, all right. So if it's not all right, it ain't the end. Like the things that we're going through right now that are not all right, that things are going bad, that it is not the end of you. This is perhaps the beginning of who you need to become to be the victor in life. Now, that doesn't downplay the tragedy that you may or may not be facing. I mean, I'm blessed to have both of my parents alive and well with us today. My dad had some minor surgery this morning, came through it just fine. Like, I'm blessed to have them in my life as a 50-year-old guy. I still got my parents here.
Right.
Neither of my parents had their parents at the age that I am. Like, this is a unique spot. Well, they had their moms, but their dads had already passed away. So I'm blessed. I have a wife of 30, plus years. I've got two great kids. I'm blessed, but the barriers that we're going through, no matter what you have, what you're doing, who you've lost, whatever, that's going to make you the person you need to become. So while it's terrible, and nobody's saying it isn't terrible, if you've lost a child, if you lost a
Right.
spouse, lost someone, lost a business, if you had to file bankruptcy, maybe you've been in jail for something that really wasn't your fault, but you took the fall because you had to do something happen. Look, I I haven't experienced any of those things, but I can tell you that through those things, as Curtis just said, when you go through that, pushing against those barriers is going to make you a better person. And you may say, well, that's platitudes. I don't want to hear that crap. I just want to fix it. Listen, when I was in the middle of my worst business situation I ever went through, I remember one day I'd hit just a wall, and I'm not an emotional person. I don't cry very easily, but I remember one day just collapsing in the floor of my office. And my wife knew fully well what was happening, but she was not at home. And I was in my home office, and I was laying on the floor face down. I wasn't crying, but I was spent. And she walked into the
Right.
office. She
Right.
came home. She said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not okay." And then she turned around, she left the room, which was the right thing to do. I did not need to talk. I didn't need any consolation.
Right.
Listen, we're gonna go through this crap, but we have to know that isn't what defines us. That there's something better on the backside. It sucks in the middle and you want to get rid of it. But I'm telling you, once you get through and you look back, you're gonna go, I'm in a weird way, I'm kind of thankful I went through it. I would never wish it to
Yeah.
do it again, and I don't want to wish that on my worst enemy, but I'm kind of grateful that I went through it because it makes me who I am today.
And it brings up a point to me is that one of the things I always talk to my clients about is it's okay not to be okay. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like it's not okay not to be okay, meaning like we have to hide it, we have to suppress it, we have to do things to kind of get rid of it. And one of the things I say all the time is okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to pretend that you're okay and not, because of the fact that your neurological system shuts down when you pretend, when you press down those feelings and those emotions and those things that's actually happening to you. For you, you're like one of the worst things in my life. that could ever happen to a father or to a family or to a husband and a wife, because we lost our son almost 5 years ago. And through that loss is that it taught us so much, and it allowed us to grow to a level that we've never gone through. Now, I don't wish that on anybody. And every day is still a day where we're kind of really moving through it, because grief is totally different than a lot of other things. And we'll talk about that in another show, guys. But this is an opportunity, whatever you're going through. I think what Jason is sharing with us, whatever you're going through, you're okay. And I know a biblical thing, it says all things work together for good, meaning like, it didn't say you're going to feel good. And things when we go through, it's not feeling good, but it works out for our good when we allow it to work through us, and we get to learn and we can grow and we kind of expand from it. So now tell us, what 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 step would you tell someone? I mean, now it's like, hey, you've gone through something, you're feeling bad, you feel like everything is falling apart. What's one action step you can kind of leave with the audience that they can say, okay, we got this, we can get through this?
I believe, you mentioned Napoleon Hill earlier, and I believe that the idea of disciplining your mindset is probably the
Yes.
key to anything you need to get in life. In 2022, I think it was 2022, I read the book Think and Grow Rich for the first time all the way through. Now, I had started it years before, and I was like, "This is stupid. This is a bunch of bunk," and I quit reading it. And then I came back to it in 22. I read it, or maybe it was 21 or 22. I read it, and then I sat down with my friend, one of my really close friends, and we went through the Think and Grow Rich workbook together, which I highly recommend. I don't make any money from it, and I'm not an affiliate, but we went through that together, and now I take all my apprentices through that. I've taken my son through it, and what I believe is that if you discipline your mind and you totally understand that
Yes.
the only thing you have control over in this world, you can't control what people do to you, you can't control what happens to you, you can't control a lot of things in life, most things you can't control, but you can control how you think about the things that happen. And the way you think about
Yes.
it gives it meaning. And we assume the intent of so many things and so many people in our lives, and that assumption of intent and the way we allow our mind to wander into places it shouldn't go creates so much pain in our lives unnecessarily. So I would say the step would be discipline your mind. You need to understand 100% that every negative word that you say, and everything that we say is on a continuum. There's positive, there's
Yeah.
negative, there's
Oh, yeah.
beneficial, and there's things that are not beneficial. If you got to be on the positive side of that continuum all the time. So don't say things you don't want to be true. Don't say, "Man, I hope I don't get a flat tire on the way to work." Why would you
Right.
say
Don't
that? Like that,
joke.
like you're just inviting. You're not. You can't magically create the flat tire by saying it, but you're going to attract just in ways that we don't even understand. Negative things are going to happen. Don't do that. So discipline your mind. I believe 100% in positive affirmations, but not in a woo woo way. Like just real things. Like who do you want to be? Who do you desire to be?
Right.
Affirm that in your life and refuse to be negative. Refuse to say things you don't wish to be true. If you can do that and commit to it, and it takes a long time to get there, but if you can commit to that, your life will change. And I'll give you one little thing to kind of to reinforce this. There's one of my favorite books in the world is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Are you
Yeah.
familiar,
That's a good
Curtis, with
one.
the book?
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm listening
Yeah.
to it again. I try to read it once a year or listen to it once a year, and I just started chapter 11 today. I started it in January. I'm trying to get through it because it's such a good book. And one of the things he teaches in that book is going on a mental diet. And just like in any regular diet, you limit yourself, you restrict yourself from certain things. Well, a mental diet is restricting yourself from dwelling on negative thoughts. He said, so what he teaches in the book, he says, look, for a week, just note negative thoughts. Like don't try to not have them, but as they come up, note it. Like, okay, I did think something negative here. Like write those things down and you'll be surprised at how many negative things you think about and how many things you buy into that are negative. And then for the next 30 days, limit yourself. So if a negative thought comes into mind, you don't dwell on it. You can have it, you can't ignore it, but you don't dwell on it because the dwelling on those negative thoughts that causes negativity. So I would encourage people to do a mental diet, like Dr. Maxwell Maltz talks about in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics.
That's great advice, man. We really appreciate what you share with the audience. That's great stuff. When it comes to mindset stuff, and one of my two favorite books, that's one, and Think and Grow Rich is the other. So as we wrap up today, why don't you let people know how they can get in touch with you, man?
For your listeners who are business owners, I want to invite you, if you're doing 3 million or more in revenue, I want you to go check out a free training that I have online at this website. It's called whattofixbeforeyouexit.com. Whattofixbeforeyouexit.com. It's a free 60-minute training, and it's real training. It's not a sales pitch in disguise. I'm not trying to set you up for selling you something later. It's real training on the 7 things that buyers are looking for that you need to fix in your business, whether you're ready to sell today or you want to sell 5 years, 10 years from now. Whattofixbeforeyouexit.com. But if you just want to engage with me individually, you can just Google or ChatGPT the real Jason Duncan, and you're going to find me anywhere online or in AI. Just look for the real Jason Duncan, and you're going to find me.
Yeah, so I told you guys, he is the real Jason Duncan. Jason, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, and appreciate and all those things. I think you already shared the links with me, and we'll make sure that they're in the show notes so that people can find you. Once again, man, we'd like to thank you for being on the show. Great, great, great show. Appreciate it. This is the first show for the Legit Mindset. In the past, it was the Curtis McCullom show, and this is the first rendition of the Legit Mindset. So I want you to let me know what you guys think. So thanks again for tuning into the Legit Mindset podcast, learning, growing, expanding, and transforming. If today's episode inspired you, share it with a friend or leave a review. And if you're ready to uncover your own blind spots and elevate your potential, book a free clarity call with me at bespokehumanpotentialcoaching.com. Remember, guys, that real stories, real setbacks, and real growth, that is the legit way.